Okay, good morning, class. We will continue today our discussion about humanities, but definitely there's going to be a lot of changes because I'm going to change almost everything right from the very start and right to the very end. I have planned it before, and for this time, I am going to change it. It is simply because there's something that is happening to us. And I think if I'm going to focus so much on the cognitive, it's useless. And therefore, because of the present situation, I am going to retool the meaning of our subject so that somehow, somewhere, we will be able to use this in how to face this pandemic. So, in other words, the entire context and the entire concept of my subject before is long gone. Forget that. Although I will be still using that, but it is now having another function because I want to look into how art is being used in times of pandemic. Because when I was a nurse before, we used art in the treatment of our patients, like for example, depression, anxiety, OCDs, as well as the autism. We use the art, like for example, the music therapy, the painting therapy, and so on and so forth. And therefore, because of that rich knowledge that I have, I am going to apply it right now in the subject. So let's begin. And I shall begin also with the lectures that I have before. If you can still remember vividly, I was able to explain to you about what is an art and what is its definition. And if you can also remember vividly again, I have a different approach in defining an art. So let's remember, if you can still remember, Joyce Kilmer trees. Okay, let's begin. I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree. Then go on and go on and go on and go on. So, what is important, we shall revisit this one. At the very beginning of the lines, there is this, I think I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree. And I have explained this to you that the very first part means that exaltation, a person who finds enjoyment, and a person who finds happiness in looking at the tree. He was able to, thank you, he was able to express how beautiful it is. So therefore, he was able to discover what beauty is. And then on the second line, a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's flowing breast. We were able to tell you also that this is more of a personification. In other words, the artist was able to use his creative mind instead of saying that this is the roots, but look at his style. He said that hungry mouth is pressed, and this one he simply means roots. Now we go to the last end. Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. So if you can remember, let's go back to this point that I was able to make the dichotomy between what nature is and what art is. That nature is created by God and art is created by man. And in order to exalt the power of God, man created the art. And that's it. Yes. So therefore, I was able to like this. Arts are made by man while God created nature. And this is clear to you. And therefore, shall go back that in the process, I was able to present to you the definition of the art in a creative way. And then I was able to also present to you critical thinking, because how can that be? A tree whose hungry mouth is pressed, and then you know that that is actually critical thinking and you were able to analyze those lines that simply this represent the roots. And then I was also able to tell you what collaboration is, that you should share. You should also discuss amongst of you. And then finally, communication. I always make it a point that everyone is obliged to talk, because whether you like it or not, if you cannot talk, then that brain doesn't belong to my class. And lastly, I should say Christ-centered. Because whether you like it or not, if you become educated, but your nature is something that is savage, I don't like that. Somehow, whether you like it or not, this is what I said, the Northeastern Mindanao College's brand of education. Education that is somehow very creative, capable of critical thinking, capable of cooperation or collaboration. And then this one, which I always emphasize in my class, communication. If you cannot talk, get out. That is always the case. And then Christ-centered. Although sometimes I appear to be satanic, you know my nature. Okay? So that's it. We will go back and then we will now proceed. Okay. Now, I was able to explain as well the function of the arts. And what is the function of the arts? It is to entertain. Actually, you enjoy this almost on a daily basis. Like, for example, you watch TV, you laugh at everything. And that is the function of the arts, to entertain. And why is it that this is very important? Because you know for a fact, if all works and no play, simply you will become stupid and a dull boy. Diba? Mabuang naman tayo kung lahat naman tayo nagtatrabaho lang. Huh? So somehow, somewhere, we need to spice up our life. Huh? We need this suckled break. And then, the next function of the art, which is to educate. And therefore, you are in the classroom, you want to learn. And somehow, that's why it's very important for me that this function of to educate is simply coupled with that after we are educated, we become civilized, we become sophisticated, because that's the point of education. If you are educated and you are acting savagely, for me, I can always equate you to an animal. You're useless. And then lastly, I will be talking about enlightened. If you can still remember, I have made an example of this. Like, for example, enlightened. When you watch a movie, then after you were able to watch a movie, then your tears dripping, and then you do not know why. It is simply because you realize that the message of the story on the movie is simply relevant to your life. And therefore, you were able to shed tears for that. And that is enlightening. And you know, if ever an art reaches the point of enlightening, that for me is the best function. Huh? When a person was able to enlighten. If you can still remember during the EDSA revolution, the artists gathered together. Like, for example, if you remember that I was singing to you na, Ibon mang may layang lumipad, kulungin mo at umiiyak. And you know what happened? During 1986, the entire Filipino nation rallied against the dictator. And that was the rebirth of our democracy. And not only that, if you remember also during the American times, when the Negroes were just a slave, then Uncle Tom's Cabin was written. It reinvigorates a nation. It has sent them to a certain enlightenment point of view that it is wrong to equate black people to simply slaves. And therefore, that was the book, that was the novel of Uncle Tom Scaven that was able to what? Release the slavery. Oh, it was such a moment that an art is really powerful. And if you can remember also, I was talking to you about the 7 deadly sins that affected the Bible. The Bible actually do not have those 7 deadly sins, but it was somehow, somewhere affected us, and it has affected our religion. And also when Confucius has told us about, tell me what I do the best thing that I can do for you or what in some way or another, it becomes now the basis of our Christianity. And those masterpieces of the word that I've been telling you are simply the point of enlightenment by which we as human beings was able to march forward as a civilized being. Because if we do not become civilized, then certainly we will equate ourselves lower than the dogs and the cats. So we will move again. Nagyaw-yaw na kog daghang kaayo, naunsa naman ko, dung naunsa man ni murag di man mo duyog. Asa man ni? Okay, now, so we will now discuss about arts in times of pandemic. So, unsaon man ako, how can I do this? So, just listen to me and just listen to me very carefully because this is something very new, but I'm going to introduce this to you. Okay, now. Dong, wala lagi dong. Okay. Asa man siya? Otro na pagkutusok. Okay, now. A human being is always having these 2 components, the mental side as well as the emotional side. But when we're going to use art in times of pandemic, therefore I am going to use this also as in psychotherapy. But I don't want to use the term psychotherapy because if I am going to use the term psychotherapy, you might say, sir, dili man mi buang, nganong psychotherapy man. So I changed that into another term which is cognitive behavioral therapy. And I will explain this to you. What does it mean? So in a cognitive behavioral therapy, I am going to take into consideration your emotion and also your mind and your behavior. So whether you like it or not, you can see this in one person. So let's start. Now your mind will simply affect your emotion. Okay, like for example, ako ngayon, pumasok ako sa inyong classroom. My mind is prepared and therefore my emotion is prepared. So that is the mindset affecting the behavior. And then next, your mind affecting the behavior. I mean, originally it was the mind affecting the emotions, and now the mind affecting the behavior. Like for example, sometimes there are teachers who comes to the classroom having so much problem. You know what? We become the target of projection. Huh? She is somehow, somewhere topsy-turvy and gets, mad or angry easily. It is simply because the mindset is not good. And that's why I'm going to discuss this. And then next, emotion. How the emotion affects the mind. You know what? I have to tell you honestly that being an emotional person, like for example, when I am in love, whether you like it or not, I see the world in beds of roses. When I hear noise, I don't hear noise. I see the strings of Rachmaninoff. I hear Mozart. And I hear Paganini. Oh, it's beautiful, beautiful things. And you know what? Emotions can also affect behavior. Again, let me repeat. If I am in love, whether you like it or not, when I enter the room, I always feel sexy. That's why when I move, when my behavior goes this and that, it is simply because of the expression of my emotion that is actually sexy. And you know that as well. And now let me tell you, explain to you also this one, how your behavior affect your mind. Sometimes we do feel lazy. We don't want to go. But because you're criminology, you're obliged to do. And then when you do this and we do that, you use the exercise. Somehow, somewhere, those blood flows go into the brain. Was able to stimulate the brain. Oh, finally, this is good. This is so. And then let's start also again how the behavior affect the emotion. So when you, like for example, most of you criminology, you're in action, you're as one. Therefore, you were able to develop that unity or coherence among yourself. And therefore, I shall tell you that all of these three factors, your emotion, your mind, and behavior, truly affect each other. And I can prove that to you using the art, affecting the emotion, affecting the mind, and affecting the behavior. Okay, now for your next is that you have this, watch the video in YouTube. This one, I really do not know this one. And this is all about The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Now listen very carefully. I don't want you to analyze it in terms of literary context or what analysis. That is no use. I just want you to listen because I will explain this to you later. What is it all about? How does it affect our emotion and how does it affect our mind? And then next, you're going to also be having this YouTube again. And this is Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. Again, my favorite, Edgar Allan Poe. And lastly, okay, I want you also to look and visit this, the painting by Vincent Van Gogh. Now, this is the title of the painting is about sunflower. Now, I will explain this to you later, what is meant of sunflower. But before we're going to discuss it on the next meeting, each one of you must bring a seed. Okay, not necessarily na seed sa sunflower, magdala lang jud mo og seed. Maski seed na sa munggos, maski seed na sa palay, maski unsa na seed, pagdala jud. Gusto nako, you are going to bring the seed, and as I am going to discuss the painting of Vincent Van Gogh, I will now reveal to you the importance of that seed. How important it is. Huh? And then, for your assignment, okay, mauni siya. Okay, how are you going to apply these artworks in determining our anxiety and fears? So, this will be your assignment. You're going to define what is anxiety and what is fear. Okay, class, as of now, thank you. And I'm really excited to meet you again by tomorrow or by next meeting. Again, these are the assignment. Define what is anxiety and define what is fear, and then you're going to bring seed. Kanang unsa na sa Bisaya kanang seed? Unsa pa na? Leizu. Leizu. Kanang leiso. Bahala. Dili na siya leizu sa sunflower. Pwede na rin na leiso sa inyong mga kanang humay. Pwede rin na. You can bring that. And again, this is your beautiful teacher, Heart Evangelista. Thank you for now.